does suggest that the 6172 variant is more transmissible than any of the other variants. I don't think that makes it a superbug necessarily. It's exactly what we expect with Darwinian evolution over time. If the virus is allowed to run rampant, which is what's happened around the world, it will just get fitter and fitter. As we say, that means more transmissible and more transmissible, including in the face of immunity eventually. So we do have to plan at least for this being significantly more transmissible, but it doesn't change actually the action you'd take. It just means that we, from the government to the individuals, need to be very vigilant at doing the things we've been asked to do. There is nothing more you can do or will need to do. This will work still for the India variant, but boy, we can't be complacent. Think, we solved it before in the BlackRock instance. It's going to happen here. Every Victorian needs to mask up. We know masks work. We didn't know that so well a year ago. We know they work really well. Please do it. Please get tested. Please use your QR codes and obviously comply with the other restrictions that have come in and the limits. These things really do work, and they'll work with the India strain just as well as they've worked with others. But, there is hints that it's 3 times more transmissible than the original Wuhan strain. The UK variant was, close to twice as transmissible. So these viruses are getting worse, and they'll continue to get worse.
If you're just tuning in, this is Radio National Drive. I'm Patricia Karvelis, and my guest is Professor Brendan Crabb, who's the CEO of the Burnet Institute. 0418 226 576 is our text line. I'd love to hear from you if you are, particularly if you're in Melbourne and you are concerned about what's happening. Love to hear your views. So what would authorities consider to determine whether a lockdown is needed?
It's a good question, but I think that the point of whether there was there's a line crossed with some uncertainties, and I don't know exactly where that line would be, but, I saw Brett Sutton's comment that it's not in quote-unquote out of control yet. I don't think that means a numbers game. I think that means you don't know why certain cases are popping up in certain regions and so on. At the moment, that's not happening. And I don't know where that line is, but I do know, where there's a degree of uncertainty, not the case numbers, but a degree of uncertainty, then that trigger might be pulled. Let's hope it's not necessary, and the degree to which we all comply will help stave off the chances of that happening. If our testing rate remains relatively, low, then we might miss cases. If we can, all go in for the slightest sniffle and get a test, then we will pick up where this virus is much easier. So it depends a lot on all of that. So I'm sort of a little bit confident and concerned at the same time without being super stressed. I love that they've jumped on it. I love the urgency without panic. It's quite a step up. I know because I'm a little bit closer to it. It's a very professional approach. Now things have improved enormously in a year, and I think Victorians can be, confident of the team that's looking after them, and we as individuals now need to do our bit.
Is it time to review the 14 days quarantine? Because a few people have texted in that it does appear to have a longer incubation. Is that an issue now?
No, I don't think I think the 14-day quarantine served us well. There are other weaknesses in quarantine that, are irritating to say the least. Hotel quarantine has been good but not great, and we know the difference between good and great, and that's, how seriously airborne transmission is taken. And we still don't have strong national standards and national guidelines in that, informing the states as to what's best practice. And so we've had 17 or 18 leaks in 6 months, and nearly all of those have been or have probably been because of airborne transmission of COVID. So that's the thing I would like to see. We know how to deal with that. You can't guarantee you'd never have any leaks, but you could certainly do a lot better than we're currently doing with Howard Springs type models eventually, or even with audits of hotels. along those, some stricter national guidelines. So we can do a lot for quarantine. I don't think it's the 14-day issue. That's the main game.
Look, the other big change I've noticed is that we haven't seen all of the states and territories lock down their borders in relation to Victoria. Why is that?
I just think there's greater confidence. I think it's long been about confidence in each other's capacity, and where lockdowns have happened. I remember here in Victoria when the source of the Black Rock outbreak happened in New South Wales, and I think Victoria seemed to me to be a little bit unhappy with what New South Wales were doing, and justified or not, not mandating masks and so on. And so that led to border closures. I think we've moved a lot right across the country with the degree of confidence we have in each other, and that's a big factor. I'm observing that from the outside. It'd be good to ask insiders that question, but I certainly sense that the bar has been raised by everybody and it's appreciated by everybody.
Just finally, another listener question. They've always got better questions than me. They know I always say that, but it's actually true. I'm not even sucking up. They do. Will the AstraZeneca vaccine protect against this Indian 2167 strain?
The latest data out of the UK suggests that 2 doses of AstraZeneca does protect against the India strain, and so that's good news. 1 dose, not so great. It does work, but not work so well. So we really need people to get their 2 doses. Of course, with a bit of luck, this is a warning shot, and this won't become a significant outbreak. But there's of course every chance this winter we are going to have significant outbreaks. There's a enormous global epidemic going on at the moment, and we're not greatly different to other countries that have done really well, Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea. We shouldn't consider ourselves any better than them, and they've all got significant problems now. So we do need to prepare for a significant outbreak. Any of the variants seem to be reasonably controlled by 2 doses of AstraZeneca, and also quite well controlled by Pfizer. I think by the looks of it, there is some immune escape. It's not as good, and as time goes on, the variants will get better at immune escape, if you like. But for now, it's pretty encouraging news. So please do get vaccinated. Don't delay. It takes 3 months between doses to get an optimal response. That may be reviewed at some stage, I suspect, to bring the gap closer. But so you can't afford to delay, and you'll be protected to a degree after 1 dose, but really quite well after 2, even against the Indian variant.
And not to be self-serving, but I know other people are in my cohort too. I'm under 50, so I'm not eligible for the AstraZeneca. But if I want to make that choice, and I do, to receive that vaccine because I want to get vaccinated, do you think the government should alter the rules and let people under 50 turn up at their own discretion to get that vaccine?
I personally do, yes. I think at their own discretion. And on GP's advice, I think it's still, I understand why the TGA has made the decision they've made, and I'm supportive of it. But, under the circumstances in which you just said, it's the vaccine we've got available, because of the, really quite bold and good decision to have sovereign. The government doesn't get many free kicks, but their choice to make vaccine here was a pretty smart one, because it turned out very hard to get vaccine from overseas, and it's a good vaccine. So clearly there's a rare complication that we're getting on top of to a large degree. So yeah, I would support that absolutely under the circumstances that you outline.